Hello, I'm Multiprometheus1, and welcome to episode 4 of In Defense of Blank, where I look at movies that I think get too much criticism, and have a lot more than people realize. This is a movie that is interesting, because when it came out, the critics absolutely loved it. Like, this movie was a really big hit with critics. In fact, it even got nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. For a movie that's technically science fiction to get an Academy Award nomination, let alone Best Picture, that's incredibly rare. And that's incredibly, like, usually when it comes to the Academy Awards, it has to be a based on a true story movie in order to get nominated for anything. So, besides visual effects or something like that. So Gravity was actually a really, and as I just said, it is Gravity. So why did a majority of people seem to hate this movie while a majority of the critics seem to love it? Well, number one, Sandra Bullock's acting can get pretty hokey at times. A lot of lines she delivers like a little kid in a school play. And, when you're watching a little kid in a school play, it's, oh, that's cute, they're trying to act. That's, maybe with a little more training, they'll get better someday. We can give them a break, they're just a little kid. But when you're a professional actress who's done a lot of really impressive stuff in her career, it's just kind of uncomfortable to see this talented of an actress do this poorly in a role. But her acting really isn't as nearly as bad as it could be. Another thing people complain about is the plot. I hear so many people say that this movie has no plot, and I cannot wrap my mind around that. The story is incredibly well done. It's not a simple plot. It's not a plot that is too simple. It is an incredibly complicated plot, character-wise, disguised as a simple story. The simple story of a woman trying to survive a space disaster is only a disguise for the very well done and interesting story that is actually going on, which is a woman who has lost a lot, dealt with a lot of tragedy in her life, and this disaster is the last straw. She's about to give up and just let herself die, and she has to find the strength to carry on. And it's a very compelling story, and her character is actually very well developed. We get inside her head, we get her motivations, we get everything that she's thinking, everything that she's going through, and we connect with her. We connect with her as an audience, and the best films are the ones where the audience not only gets invested in a character, but connects with them, can understand where they are at emotionally, and where they are at just in their mental state and everything. When an audience can connect with a movie like that, it is extremely beneficial to the film. And when you've got really interesting character motivations with a really well-developed character, plus a story that is more than it seems when you really analyze it, makes an extremely well-done film. I was really just expecting this to be a space disaster movie like Apollo 13, and while Apollo 13 is a pretty well-done movie, this movie was something different. It wasn't just the disaster and the characters trying to survive it. It was this one character who is now alone, has gone through so much crap in her life, and now is nearly about to die, and it's the last straw in everything, is now having to go on a soul-searching journey. And it was very compelling, and I highly enjoyed it when I saw it in the theater. Now, granted, I don't think that was their full intentions when making this film. I don't think that was director Alfonso Cuarón's full intention. I believe the movie was fully intended to be a visual experience. A lot of the angles and camera movements and visual effects or everything make it seem like the film is not necessarily intended to tell a story, but more be a space simulator, make you, the audience, feel like they're floating adrift in space. And when you're watching the film in IMAX 3D, it's incredibly effective, and you really feel like you're weightless, and it's incredible. But one of the things that makes Gravity so great is that you have this incredible visual experience. Some of this stuff has never been done before in the history of film, or if it has, not successfully, or not nearly as great as this. Plus an extremely compelling story with a really, really well-developed character that the audience can connect with. When you look at the film that way, you can see why so many critics loved it, and why it was one of the few science fiction films in recent years to get nominated for an Academy Award besides visual effects and stuff. It not only got nominated for Best Director, which it won, but it got nominated for Best Picture of the Year, and it lost to 12 Years a Slave, and the only reason 12 Years a Slave won is because it was a based on a true story movie, and the Oscars are really biased. Another thing they do in this film extremely well is the action. The action in this movie, because all the camera angles and the visuals and the IMAX 3D makes you feel weightless, makes you feel like you are adrift in space along with the characters. The action is extremely intense and you feel sick to your stomach. There's an incredible shot, it's my favorite effect shot in the entire film, where she's out fixing something on the space station, the debris comes a second time, absolutely destroys everything, and she's desperately clinging on to the one part of the space station that she's on while it's crashing into everything. It's a mind-blowing shot. Like, it's literally a nerve-wracking shot, because when you're sitting in the theater on that gigantic screen with the 3D, are going, whoa, what the frig, ah, you know? But one thing in this movie that doesn't get near the attention it should is the musical score. This movie's musical score is amazing. It's absolutely beautiful, and every single, as you can see in the background of my videos, I have a keyboard back there, and I also have a guitar and a mandolin. I am very much a musician as well as a film fanatic and aspiring filmmaker. I do music a lot. I've been doing music for almost 10 years, and I use that experience I have when I'm looking at movie scores. And the score of this film hits all the right points at all the right times, and not only that, but it excels. It is an absolute beautiful score, and you know, it's literally one of the very few movie soundtracks that I actually went and bought some of the songs off of because I just loved them so much. The climax of the film, where she's having to re-enter Earth's atmosphere, not only is that an extremely intense action scene, but that scene is made quadruple 5 times, 6 times, 7 times as amazing as it would be otherwise by that incredible piece of music that plays during it. That incredible piece of music conveys all the emotions, all the thoughts, everything going inside her head absolutely perfectly, and I remember sitting in the theater going, holy cow. So, yes, the plot does seem a little too simple in some places, and Sandra Bullock's acting can get a little annoying at some times, but if you really analyze the film and you really look at all the different layers of everything, it really is a much more complicated, much more artistically brilliant film than a lot of people seem to give it credit for, and I think that's why all the critics, or at least a majority of them, really seem to like it, while a majority of the people didn't really like it. There is a fan theory about this movie, and I don't necessarily believe it, but it's pretty interesting. I'm unable to cite who did it, who came up with it, unfortunately, but it's a very, very interesting theory, and I want to share it with you. Okay, so at the end of the movie, when she makes it back to Earth, the environment she's in, now it could just be that she's in some other country, but it looks kind of otherworldly. Like, it doesn't look natural at all. I mean, it's almost like she crash landed on an alien planet or something. And earlier in the film, when she's working on the space station and everything like that, she has that tube of oxygen thing attached to her back, so that's feeding her oxygen. But later in the film, close to the climax, she's drifting around in space and she doesn't She does not have an oxygen tank on her back, and she is not connected to the space station for that tube to give her oxygen. There is no way she's breathing at that point because she's not getting oxygen from anywhere. There is a fan theory that states that when the debris hit at the beginning of the movie, everyone on the mission died, including her, and that the rest of the film is not her trying to get back to Earth, it's her soul trying to get back to heaven. This theory is very, very interesting, and the evidence I stated in this video is not even close to how much evidence for it there is. Do I think that's what the filmmakers intended? No. Do I think that's what director Alfonso Cuarón intended? No. But there's a lot of evidence that points to it, and once you think of the movie that way, you will never watch it the same way again. I'm really sorry to whoever came up with this fan theory. I'm unable to cite you and reference you. I'm sorry for that, but it's one of my favorite movie fan theories ever, because when you look at it that way, the film's meaning and the film's message is not only made a lot more beautiful, but made a lot more powerful as well. I absolutely love Gravity. It was one of my favorite movies of 2014, and I really feel bad for it that a majority of the people don't really, you know, care for it that much, which to each his own. Absolutely to each his own. If you don't enjoy something, don't watch it, and if you enjoy something, watch it. You know, it's perfectly fine. But my whole aim in this show is to, you know, bring attention to movies that are either underrated or get too much criticism, and I absolutely love Gravity. I think there's so much more than people realize when they watch the movie. It's not that simple survival story. There's so much going on within the character and within everything. So, try rewatching the movie. You don't necessarily have to watch it with that fan theory in mind. Just watch it for what it is, and thinking about the points I've made here, because it really does not deserve. It really does not get the credit it deserves. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.